Go on a national.
Jerry?
Gary, you better buy a great big
Jerry, the boats wouldn't start.
Do you have that
I think everyone is here. We're sure glad that everybody could be here. They asked me to be the MC of this program in honor of these new people here. We're going to try to keep it quiet, but I guess we couldn't. As you know, there's 8 girls and a boy in this family. That means that there's 9 brother-in-laws and 1 sister-in-law. And including Gary, they went through 9 people before they picked me to be MC. They all said no. And
Ain't true.
but it worked out this way anyway, and I'm glad to do it. Originally, I think Gary was supposed to, and he thinked out on us. So we're glad that he could do it. We do want to thank Gary and Chris for opening up their home for the, what is this, the 4th year? 4th year we've been here?
Yeah.
4th year. We're so glad that that could be. And we've gathered here together today to introduce and honor Jenny and Woody. The first program was said, "This is your life," and I thought they meant me. But it was for Jenny and Woody, and we're glad that they could be here now. And before we start in, Palma's going to have some songs, and we're going to have some things to say about them. Some good, some bad, some mediocre. And, we're recording all of it, so that we'll be there. But before we start, I've asked Rob to play and Palma to lead. Let's sing, I'm so glad I'm part of the family of God. Let's sing it through twice, because truly we are a part of the family of God here. And we have so much to be thankful for every year that we can gather here. And what Gary has designated here as the upper room belongs to the family of God. And we're here today, and let's sing it and let him know that we are truly meaningful of this.
Raise the roof like you've never seen it before, okay? I'm so glad I'm a part of the family of God. I've been washed in the fountain, cleansed by His blood. Join heirs with Jesus as we travel and song. I'm part of the family of God. Have a little slower end again. I'm so glad I'm a part of the family of God. I've been washed in the fountain, cleansed by His blood. Join heirs with Jesus as we travel this song. I'm part of the family of God.
I think Palma has another song.
Ready on school day. School day, zero golden rule days, reading and writing and arithmetic, down to the tune of a hymn receipt. You were my queen in Calico. I wish your bashful there would know. You rode on my sleigh. I love you so. When we were a couple of years.
Yes.
So let's sing
Something's
it
supposed to
again.
happen here. We brought somebody to represent this
School
school.
day, zero golden rule days, reading and writing and arithmetic, all to the tune of a hymn we sing. You were my queen in Calico. I was your bashful when we were a couple of years.
Hey, Al. Well, I bet you're glad to get out of there, aren't you? Louder. Louder.
I can't. Okay. Woody and Jenny, we want you to know that counting you as our true friends has been our privilege. It has also made us wealthy as recipients of your friendship that encompasses every facet of our lives. You have given us your loyalty without hesitation or any questions. You have been there with your generous support and caring through the bad times. We've also had your concern in the not-so-bad times. But when a kind word or a smile from you sets things right once again. We've also shared with you the good times, too numerous to count. Woody and Jenny, you have known Al for over a half a century. Whoa. That makes us really old, doesn't it?
You don't look that old.
During your young adult years, the adult years, and now more mature years. Lucky the good memories are the ones that we remember. I've only known you about 25 years, but want to join Al in thanking you both for remaining fast through all the past. And when we pause long enough to reflect on you two special people, we know we've been truly blessed to have you as our very special friend.
For the record, Ada mentioned earlier, a lot of these that are written down will be put in the script for you, as well as video.
Can we go back?
I'd like to know. As you gathered, Alan and Woody have been great friends for a long time. When I first got aboard this family about 43 years ago, I guess it was when I first came in, Al Crosby was very much a part of it around there. In fact, I didn't always know who was vying for attention, him or me, around the house. But we used to play ping pong. Some of you remember on the folks' dining room table. Nobody could ever beat Al, and he was very good at ping pong at the time. A couple other memories on him before we get into Woody is Al was quite a drummer in those days, and he also lived in apartment houses downtown and hotels, and he never seemed to have a car. And many times I would move him out of the apartments about 5 in the morning or something like that because they had given him his last notice that he couldn't play the drums in the rooms there. One time we was at the house there on Lincoln Street, and Jenny and Woody and I were talking about the Lincoln Street house not too long ago, and I took a picture of it not too long ago to see the changes. Showed it to Rob also a few months ago. Al asked for a ride back downtown to his hotel, and so I took him down, and he at that time felt he was a pretty good ladies' man, you know, that they all just really would go for him. And we drove up on 3rd Street there at 3rd and Washington, I think it was, and this was about 10 o'clock at night, and there was a couple young ladies standing out on the corner, and the stoplight was there. And Al said, just a minute. He jumped out the car, and about that time the stoplight changed. He jumped back in the car, and he says, if they can't make up their mind during the change of a light, it's too late. So we did have a lot of fun along with Al here. Jenny didn't know that this was her program, but she was telling Ida here recently that she went to the beauty shop, and she spent about 7 hours in the beauty shop, and that was only for the estimate. As you know, I think most of you, at least in town, know that Woody takes the bus most of the time, at least home from work. I don't know about going to work. And I see him down there once in a while waiting for the bus. He prefers that to my car. I guess it's safer. But he was riding a bus recently, and it was kind of crowded, and he saw this nice, pretty young lady getting in, standing up there. And after several blocks, well, it really kind of got bothering him that he wasn't getting up and at least offering his seat. So he did, and he got up and he offered her his seat, you know, and she says, no, thank you. She says, these jeans don't bend. So
What did he say? I know it.
So at this time, we're going to kind of call on the families in between, right down the line there, and in between some of them will have a few things to say and also some songs. So At this time, I think Beachy has a song, and we'll have John and Elma and any of their family members that have anything to say come up here and speak up so everyone from the back can hear. And then following John and Elma, then Nikki has a song or two also.
This, I don't know how many of you know that Woody is quite a singer. And he sang his proposal to Jenny when he proposed to her. And this is the song he sang.
Maybe I'll do mine first because I'm going to read mine, and he's going to do it out and stand for anything. Woody, gentle, sensitive, caring, and right. These adjectives describe him well. He does everything well, and yet in such a quiet, unassuming way that people might not notice all the nice things he does. I particularly have enjoyed sharing his love for classical music. Knowing Woody has been a very special part of my life. You've heard of Pearl Mesta, the hostess with the mostest. I know someone who could outdo Pearl any day. She can graciously serve 30 or more people with superb food and make it look easy. She has a knack for making everyone feel welcome and relaxed in her home. She loves children and they love her. I'm so glad she's my sister.
I just counted, and I think, are 93 people here, most of whom are family. That all started out with Mom and Dad, and my mother and I came from Norway in 1912, and then Marie joined us, and then Jenny joined us in 1922. I remember riding down the street on my bicycle on Lincoln Street, and the neighbor boy, his name was Bailey, his first name escapes me. He said, "John, you got a new sister." "How do you know that?" "Well, I just heard it." And I did. And we were very proud of Jenny at the moment. She grew like all sisters do. And about 14 years later, Woody appeared on the scene. By this time, I was married and gone from home, but one visit home, Mother said, you know, John, Jenny is getting very serious about Woody. And she was about 14 years old, I think. Anyway, I said, Mom, don't worry, it won't last.
Rob, we're going to sing to the tune of Alice Blue Gown, and we want you all to sing with us. Jenny Woody can read or sing if they like.
I've written a letter to Jenny and Woody for this backward. I'll read my letter to Jenny and Woody.
Louder.
Dear Jenny and Woody, when I was in college, I visited you guys in Portland, borrowed your car one evening for a night out on the town. I turned a corner in a residential district, not realizing that the gutter was quite deep, and I brushed the edge of the curb with the passenger side of the car. And I dented the channel underneath the car door. Well, I was very upset with myself, and I'm sure you can sense this when I came home and discussed it with you that evening upon arriving back at your place. But you not only forgave me for that, but you also totally forgot it. And I haven't heard about this incident again to this day. Now, this one incident typifies our relationship over the years. The family and I have felt loved and accepted unconditionally when we're in your presence and in your homes, no matter what the circumstances are. However, that dented car still bothers me. And so I've decided to make restitution. Now, hopefully, this gift will make everything right so that I can sleep soundly again at night. I
I borrowed her car too, but I don't have any rubber for the tires. I just have one quick thing to say. Y'all remember Lake Chelan 25 years ago, or some godly remember. But I was always the one with the beak that burned.
Was?
Still. Now they have Coppertone 15 to put on it, so I may avoid cancer, I don't know. When I didn't put the white goop on, I came back just as red as Jerry did. And there was always one auntie in the group who everybody said had the softest hands. Now this is nothing against the other aunties, but and that auntie was Jenny. And every year we would go, and I would get burned. I would always go look for Jenny to get her soft hands. Bright red sunburn. And I remember that to this day, and maybe that's why I don't have skin cancer.
Any other on the Johnson side? I'd like to say anything? As someone mentioned earlier there, that Woody is usually very thorough about things. You ask him a question and you get a book. And so he really gives it to you, and it's the instructions for guiding your life. I went in the other day to his store, and I sell office furniture, and he sells office supplies, and sometimes we swap ideas. And I told him I needed something to keep things filed on my desk and so forth, because I go away for 4 or 5 days, and I come back and everything is filed there. And what I've done is designed some things to where people can put it in, and then I can look at it and take it if I want it. But Woody says, why don't you do like I do? He said, I got 3 trays for my in and out. He says, one I label good grief, the other one I label good riddance, and the other, he says, is appropriately tagged good intentions. We did mention a while ago the house on Lincoln Street. Some of you younger generation, you ought to get your parents to take you down and into that area and just see. There's a lot of memories in that house on Lincoln Street. Later they moved up on Morrison, but we always talk about the house on Lincoln Street, and it was a good memory. I took Rob there a couple, 3 months ago, and we just stood out in front, and I dug out a couple pictures in my pocket that I had of the house in its original day 40-some years ago, and we looked at the changes and so forth, and it was quite a memory for bringing back the family. And I have a lot of memories because it was through Jenny that I met Ida, and I don't know why she took me back over there the second time, but she did. I'm still around, but we did have a good time there. Jenny was also mentioned about giving her parties quite a bit. She does a real good hostess job, and so one time she wanted to have some extra help, and so she went out and she hired a maid for the evening, and so she was giving her some instructions, and so when the maid came, she said, now when you serve the guests, she cautioned, please be careful not to spill anything. And the maid came right back and she says, you can depend on me, ma'am, replied the maid. I won't breathe a word to anyone. At this time, we'll call on Marie. She has something to say, and then we have old family friends, Harold and Hazel Wagsberg, and they will follow Marie, and they'd like to have something too, and anyone else in that portion of the family will do it now.
I was 8 years old, going on 9, when I was told by Mother that we would soon have a baby sister. I'd wanted one for so long that this just seemed too good to be true. But you know, Mother always kept her promises, and sure enough, we did receive a baby sister, John and I. The most beautiful baby we'd ever seen. We both agreed to this. I was a little mother for sure, pushing a large wicker baby buggy all over the neighborhood for the people to admire and see our new baby. Jenny and I were close. I recall when I was about 12 being asked to spend the weekend at our friends the Asons. They lived in the country, sort of, and I just loved going there. but I wouldn't go unless Jenny could go too. So we were both invited and we had a great time. When Jenny was about 12, going on 16, Woodrow Stone, stylish in his knickers, started coming to our house regularly. At first we understood that he had to come to walk his sister Elizabeth over. She came to play with Jenny, but soon it seemed Woody came along, rather Elizabeth. We all loved him from the start. I especially did. And I remember worrying a little when Daddy was ready for bed and his flannel nightshirt would come out and wind his alarm clock noisily. This was a subtle hint for Woody to leave, and it was all of 8:30 p.m. or so. I was a little worried, really, but I didn't need to worry because Woody persisted. And aren't we happy to? Jenny and I remained very close. When my dear husband, Alf, was taken, Jenny and her wonderful Woody invited me to come to him for a weekend. I did, and I stayed 6 months. It was a great 6 months. My darling niece, Andrea, I think there, and I shared the upstairs suite. We sometimes got in trouble with her mother, but we managed, and we
I know
had
Andrew didn't always make her bed, I don't know.
Yell at both of us.
Andrea and I felt that wasn't all that important. Anyway, after 6 weeks, I returned to my own home, and we all cried. And I knew then that I hadn't stayed too long. Jenny and Woody and I are still close. They seem to know always when encouragement is needed, and they're there to give it. They're beautiful people, unselfish, caring, sharing. They are sister, brother, and best friends.
I haven't even read this yet. Our friendship with Jenny was good many years ago, especially with Jenny.
Speak up.
I used to visit John, and we used to work around the back of the house there, and Jenny was in the house, and she was taking care of her sisters quite a bit, and she did such a good job. I thought, we could do lots of some of it.
Who do you got there first?
And that's taking care of those sister stories of caring and concern for others. And those qualities are with her still, only more so. When Woody joined the Johnson family, what a great friendship they had. And Grace and I have privileged that privilege. Jenny and Woody help anyone who needs a hand. And one might think they were twins since they share the same middle name, generous and thoughtful. Some years ago, Jenny and Woody gave Hazel her first birthday surprise party. And last year, they played a big part in the success of Harold's party, 75th year. It is our privilege to have two friends. They would do one and close out their bag, and they did just that to us last winter. Thank you, everybody, for being you and for enriching our lives. Your lives go.
Thank you, Harold. Give you an idea, you young people, of inflation. When Ida and I was first married, Harold had a little grocery store on the corner of, I believe it was 14th and Belmont. And we did not have a car. We only lived about 8 or 10 blocks away. But we went over there to buy our groceries because he promised us a discount. And we didn't have much money at the time. But we borrowed Harold's pickup truck. And for $35 worth of food to start our married life, we filled that pickup truck. That'll give you an idea what it was a couple years ago. So we thank Harold for that. All in one sack. We mentioned earlier that Jenny was a good host, and she always planned her food ahead of time. And I think she's a lot like Ada, where she writes down 3 or 4 months ahead what she's going to do, and eventually gets around to it. But she went to a meat counter recently, and she asked for a chicken, and the butcher held up one, and she said to him that or he told her that that'd be $1.75. She said, well, that's a little bit small. You got anything bigger? So he headed back to the meat room with it, and since that was the only chicken he had, he didn't know what to do. So he pounded it on a little bit, and he stretched it, and he just flattened it out and so forth, and he brought it back out, and he threw it on the scale, and he looked at it, and he said, that'll be $2.25. And Jenny says, that's fine, I'll take both of them. Woody and Pinky and us, we used to go hunting quite a bit over in Silver Lake area over in eastern Oregon. And Pinky was a little cautious of the wooded areas up there. He'd get lost once in a while. In fact, a lot. We'd have to go find Woody, or Pinky. But anyway, Woody and Pinky were out one day and they spotted a bear. And they knew that they couldn't outrun the bear. So Woody sat down and he started taking off his boots and so forth, and he put on a pair of jogging tennis shoes and started running. And Pinky said to him, what are you doing that for? He says, even with jogging shoes, we can't outrun that bear. And Woody says, I'm not worried about outrunning the bear. All I'm worried about is outrunning you. The bear will take care of you. So at this time, we'll hear from the Emmer family.
Well, this morning I thought about the time Pinky said I could have my first washing machine. And this is one of Vern's favorite stories. He reminded me of it this morning. But it is true. I went downtown to buy this washing machine, and Jenny said, I'll go with you. She said, I'd like to help you pick that out. So she went with me downtown, and I picked out what I wanted, and the man said, now we'll deliver this washing machine toward the end of the week. And Jenny took me by the nape of the neck and turned me around, and she said, we'll take our business someplace else. You need a washer today. And that man looked at Jenny, and he said to me, what is your address? I'll deliver it today. I got my washer that day just because Jenny told me. And then I thought, Mark reminded me of Chelan. There was a time when we must have had a dozen families there, and Jenny was going to scrub them all up for dinner. The rest of us was doing some cooking. And so Jenny took them, lined them up on a park bench, and she was going to scrub them all up. Children. Yeah, the little ones. Yeah. Vern was just growing these little freckles that were just barely starting to show through, and I think she thought it was dirt. And she scrubbed him real good, and he came over just crying, and he said, Mommy, she's taking my kin off. So that was cute. But anyway, I have to, if I could put into words what Jenny and Woody have done for me, it would take a tablet mighty big and ink enough to fill the sea. But most of you haven't time to listen, even though I know you care. So I'll just say thanks a million. Tusen tack. Tack ska du ha. Tack så mycket. Merci. Dankeschön. Muchas gracias to a special, wonderful parent.
asked her to see her notes and see if she got those words right. Well, we came up here to have some fun, and the first thing that happened, we had trouble with the boat. Secondly, I took Jenny out in the canoe yesterday, and as you probably have heard, she had to row back. She didn't like that. And then this morning, I thought I would do something spectacular and outdo Nick. And I don't think very many people saw me fall in. But what I want to tell you about Jenny happened way back when Woody was in the service. Yes. Bob and I were not married. So we promised to take good care of him. Very good care. Well, on Sunday evenings, it was always our pleasure to come down to Johnson family after church and have a bite to eat. This particular time, Jenny had made a beautiful berry pie. She served us berry pie that evening. And, of course, you can't get along with Jenny without teasing her a little bit. So we're sitting there with our knives and forks and telling her how tough the crust was. And not paying too much attention to Jenny, but having a real good time. And all of a sudden, Jenny was standing behind me and reached right over my shoulder and got that pie and right over my head. Well, we all laughed about it. That was fun, you know. And about 10 seconds later, she reached over, and of course Bob was laughing. He had a suit and a white shirt on and everything. And she grabbed it and went right in his face. And that's something Bob and I will always remember. And he will always remember too.
You know, it's hard to top everything that's been said, but I'd like to say just one thing about each. Jenny and Woody are really special people. And from the time I mowed their lawn as a little kid and got my first job reference, I've always appreciated them. Jenny is probably one of the very few ladies who can call me by my nickname, which only she does, and get away with it.
What is this?
Yeah. I've always felt very special about Woody because Woody did something when I was about 13 or 14, which has endured on my life ever since. And that was when most of these brother-in-laws were in their early 30s or even some in their late 20s. And I was just a little freckled-faced kid. But he organized a mountain climbing expedition, and I was the only one other than the brother-in-law, the brothers-in-law, and the guide that got to go. And I felt very special about that. But there's also another side of Woody that maybe you all don't know. He's not always very proper. Those other words that have been used to describe him. At about that same time, I started playing golf with my dad, and a lot of times Bob, and a lot of times Woody. And I can remember one time on, I think it was either the 9th or the 18th hole at
This is on film, Vern.
Okay, well, it's worthy of that. If any of you have played that course, you know that that final hole on that 9 comes down a hill, and the green is level, and then beyond the green is quite a dip down over the edge. And if you shoot over the green, you can't see the green. And that happened to my dad one day. He had hit his shot over the green, some amount of way, and he got down there and he couldn't see the pin. So he asked Woody to hold the pin up for him like this so he could see it. So Woody walked over, picked up the pin, clear over to the other edge of the green and held it up and said, "Can you see it?" And my dad said yes, and he hit the ball, and it was perfect. Came right up on the green and stopped right at Woody's feet. And my dad came bounding up over the edge of that green and saw that. And that was, the hole was about 30 feet away.
Any others in the Emma family? I wasn't going to mention anything about Woody's golfer. Probably one of the longest ball hitters that you ever did see. We'd go out to the practice range and it always went over the fence, you know, the end fence. But when we got out on the golf course, he knocked the ball the same distance, but you never knew which way, right or left, it was going to go. But he usually beat us anyway, so we did play a lot of golf in those days. And he was the only one that improved. Pinky and I didn't improve a lot then. Pinky didn't improve until after he quit playing with us. Pinky used to have a sign in his barber shop. I don't know whether he put it up at his home now. And the sign said, "Don't regard it as losing hair. Think of it as gaining face." I think a lot of us are here gaining face now. I used to think it was only the elderly people that started gaining face, but I see a lot of the young guys around here doing it now also. How many of you remember the old Packard car that Woody had? Real classic would be now. But he named that car Flattery because it wouldn't take him anywhere. Okay, at this time, have Ida. I want to say something about Ida coming up here. She's always figuring. David calls her the scratcher, you know, because she's a bookkeeper and she's always doing some figuring there. And so on the way up here, she said, "I finally got our budget figured out." And I said, "Well, how'd you do that?" She says, "We don't owe just as many people as we do owe."
Nancy would like to come.
Okay, Nancy.
Oh, you want me to go first? And then you can come. Would she take it? When I think of Jenny and Woody, I think of two of the most caring, generous, helpful, kind, hospitable, loving, sensitive people I know. But since I also knew that each family would be sharing about some or all of these loving characteristics, I decided I wouldn't even mention them, but rather I would share something that perhaps the younger generation wouldn't have known. We would all agree that Jenny is always the perfect lady, always neat and tidy, and always in control of her emotions. Amen. Well, about 40 years ago, when Woody was away in the service, Woody, you may not have heard this story, Jenny and I decided to have a night on the town. And so the most exciting thing we could think of to do was to take the streetcar downtown to the Greyhound bus depot and treat ourselves to a beautiful hot fudge sundae, because we had been in the bus depot many times and had just admired that gorgeous picture up there by the fountain. So we got down there fine. We seated ourselves on the fountain stools, and Jenny ordered 2 sundaes just like that picture. Well, when the waitress came and served them, they didn't resemble the picture. They were small, no whipping cream, no nuts, no cherries, just a plain little scoop of ice cream with a little hot fudge. And Jenny said to the girl, "We wanted 2 just like the picture, and we'll pay whatever the cost. We just like them just like the picture." And evidently it was a new girl on or something, but she said, "Well, this is how I make the hot fudge sundaes." And Jenny said, "No, just like." So she reached around the other side of the counter behind her and came up with a pressurized can of whipping cream. And if you can visualize Jenny and I on the bar stool and the waitress on the other side, and she aimed, I think, at the scoops of ice cream, but not only got those, but down our front seat. And she just sprayed and sprayed because she thought we liked lots of treats. Well, you know, my mind really draws a blank, and I don't remember if we stayed and ate them or if we paid for them. You don't remember either, but it was pretty exciting. That was the most exciting night of the family. So besides being caring and generous and helpful and kind and hospitable and loving and sensitive, and I mean this sincerely, she was also 40 years ahead of what we know today about consumer protection laws. She was brilliant, and we love you both. You can tell her later. You would tell her later. And she wanted to stay for her mother and daddy, that they would be here if they could, but they had to stay home and take care of Twin and Krista, and they loved her. And she had the package. Thank you, Benji.
You're the best marshmallow toaster I ever saw. You know that?
Let's hear it for Angie.
What I remember about Jenny and Woody most was I never had a sister, and so I spent a lot of time over at the Stone's house with Corey and Andy, tagged along as little sister of Corey and big sister of Andy, and we had some really super times. Memories that I'll never ever forget. And part of them was the neat mom and dad that they had. And Jenny, of course, would fix me anything and everything that I could think of that I wanted to eat. All day long, she would ask me if I wanted to eat. And coming home from college, her house was a stopping point, and I would come in and spend time with them. And it was a very quiet, peaceful place where I could really relax and get away from all of the noise and everything of the world. And Uncle Woody, I can remember him when I was a little girl, falling one day and really skinning up my knee. And very quietly, he picked me up in his arms and doctored me up. And it was just so calm and peaceful. And he said, it's not going to hurt anymore. And it didn't. And then at one time was I stood in the bedroom and we were spending the night with them. And we were playing right in the middle of the bedroom. And he comes in with his gallon of paint and his paintbrush. And what are you going to do? So I'm going to paint this bedroom. And we stood and watched him, and he painted the whole thing without putting a drop down or anything, without moving the furniture, and not a drop of paint anywhere, and it was absolutely perfect. How in the world did you do that? But that was Woody, and that was pretty big, and we really loved it.
Okay, anything from the Iserts? Barbara?
Well, I'm going to include them.
All right, very good, very good.
Unless
You gotta wait your turn.
Doug has something to say.
I would just like to say from the Iser plan that we love you very much.
Well, if you can keep Delmer in your prayers, you know some of it, most of you, that he did have a little fatigue breakdown, and I think they would have been here this year if it had not been for that getting away. This time, McGavin.
Harold mentioned that Jenny did some babysitting. I'm sure it didn't happen real often because Mother never left the house. Except once a year, she would have a shopping trip downtown.
and she would go to the basement, Newberry's lunch counter for fish and chips. Once a year, I got to go once with her. But there was a time that she left me home, along with probably 3 or 4 others, in Jenny's care. And I think this is my earliest memory of Jenny, because for some reason I didn't do what she said. I never quite figured that out. But she was going to try to punish me and put me in the bedroom. Remember that? Get me there. We believe that. She was very frustrated by this. But that was my earliest memory of Jenny. My next 100 experiences with Jenny were being there when she came home from work with a sack of candy. Maybe it was 1,000. But that candy sack was always open. And we ate it till it was gone. It was her own candy from her own work, you know, that she paid for, and it never got to her door, I don't think. We always ate it from work out there. That really impressed me as a little kid, that Jenny could give away Rocky Road. You know, just open the sack and let us have it. We just devoured it, of course. It just changed one bit. It just stayed with me, as all my life stayed with me, how Jenny could always just be so giving. And then there was Woody's bouncy walk to the house and away at night, and Jenny flicking the door, the porch light, till he was around the corner of the, whatever that place was, down in the corner, and start on his way home. She always stood at the door, flicking the porch light, saying goodnight, Woody, in their coat. Then there was the time when Corey came and Woody was gone. And it impressed me so much that Mother said that Jenny would lay in bed with her arm in the bassinet. Like that baby till Woody came home. I've been so impressed that God would so beautifully give to 2 people so many of the same gifts. Has that impressed you? That gift of hospitality has been theirs, not just one of them. But he gave the same gift to both of them. And we have all just reaped such a bounty from that gift. I just have known there was some secret wealth somewhere. Because how could she keep giving? But she's still doing it. There's not much more you can say when you start talking about their hospitality and their beauty and their gifts. Lately, Jenny and I have been sharing some remarkable answers to prayer the last 3 or 4 or 5 years. And we could start on that, but then we both cry some. Just exciting. Thank you, Jenny.
Well, this is really a great privilege for us to be part of this family. We started singing "This is the Family of God," and we sang that song. And this is one of the great privileges I know of my own life, to be part of this great family, the Johnson family, and the great blessings that have come to me, and to be a part of this, and thinking about saying something about Woody and Jenny. And I thought, well, some time ago, when we were passing there at Harmony, Woody said, well, you really need a diversion, Mac. And he said, you ought to take up golfing. And so I just happened to be that someone had given me a set of clubs. I said, well, this must be providential. And so we went out there in Mount Scott. I'm glad Vern brought this up because it kind of introduced the subject. So, I would get up there and swing, and it would go either out that way or to go out that way. It seemed to be a pretty good drive, but it just seemed to be the wrong direction, you know, kind of off. And Woody always said, well, you just gotta have your hand down, you gotta keep your eye on the ball, and all these things.
That's what he used to tell me too.
I got up the greens. I did pretty well on the greens, but I kept at it quite a while, and Woody kept coaching me, and finally I solved the conflict. I got rid of the clubs. But anyway, I revived this the other day. I played 18 holes and 3-par over the 3-par course with Sean, and we had a great time. And in fact, I got 2 pars, didn't I, John? So I'm pretty excited about that. Be part of your coaching. But I think one of the meaningful things, that's been very meaningful. But then another thing that's been very special to Paul and myself, I know, is, you know, we've been pastoring this at our third church, and I remember the concern I know that Woody and Jenny have had for us and for our work. And I know that one of the first family members to come down and visit us, both at Harmony and Mill Grove, and what an encouragement it was to see a part of the family down there. Woody and Jenny were so supportive, and that has always meant so much to me as I thought back to that. And God bless you, and I appreciate so much to have both of you. I'd like to introduce, I have a relative here. Don't have a lot of relatives, but I appreciate Dave Reinhold and Margie have come over from Burlington, and I want to ask Dave to stand, Dave and Marks to stand, come on, and appreciate you being here today.
Okay, I guess we have from the Beaumont family.
Isn't Cindy gonna cry for us? Cindy, get up there and cry for us.
Jenny and Woody. When we were oh so little and Jenny oh so tall, we looked to her for good things. She seemed to have them all. Each time it was her payday, there was good fudge she would bring. After a piece or two of that, the rest of us would sing. On her dresser, she kept pennies in a little wooden compote dish for the rest of us to borrow and once in a while to snitch. So our hearts go out to Jenny. Right now we want to say, forgive us please, dear Jenny. We are willing now to pay. Now, Woody, you are special too. Your car was always there for us to borrow and to use when Dave was home on furlough. We didn't wreck a fender.
Getting close, though.
The basket on your bicycle was hardly ever empty. We fit in it just perfectly till the pounds went at 70. We love you through and through. No way really to say it right, but we surely do. You can all have seats. I decided the solution to all our financial problems is for Jenny and Woody to be the recipients of the Reader's Digest $1 Million. And we all take care. I don't even remember a time when Jenny and Woody were not a pair, and I'm sure they don't remember a time when I wasn't a pet. I have learned many things from them, but probably the most useful of what Jenny ever taught me was how to dust. I sat under the dining room table with the dust cloth, liberally spread with a furniture polish. I think there was another sister or two there sometimes. And I daydreamed and thought about playing outside and a lot of things. Really nice daydreams. Until I would hear the fast-moving steps of Jenny coming through as she had finished cleaning the rest of the house and say, oh, Beachy, you go out and play, I'll finish up. And so I would hand over the cloth and Jenny would do my work. Now, I still does that way. I have lots of nice daydreams, but
That's her fault. My only daughter was named after Jenny, and she was the first auntie to take care of my little Jennifer. She came to stay for a week after Jennifer was born to help me. I'll do it for you, Cindy. And very recently, she came to teach me how to walk on crutches and to help my family try to get Rodney and David into shape. She didn't succeed on the blades. She did. I got really good on the crutches. Woody has always been there with a dependable smile and a word of support, although I understand there are times when he gets very stubborn, and I believe it's a direct quote when I say that his younger daughter said she was glad he married her mother because she would not be able to live with him. Now, you'll have to ask her. I do think that with all their giving, and it has been really magnanimous, their greatest gifts to our family may well have been 2 redheaded daughters. Dave has a little something to say. Oh dear.
When did I ever have a little something? I hadn't planned to say anything. I had been told we were expected to say anything. So this is spontaneous, but it's easy to think of spontaneous, nice things in regard to Woody and Jenny. I think I met Woody before I met almost anybody else, with the possible exception of Beachy, whom I met the first time I remember, when I was 11. And I think probably meeting Woody was when I was 16, and we were asked to play on the church softball team. That was when Dean was there. Dean looked something like Woody looked then, a bit stout, but he acted much different. The thing that I was impressed with as I watched Woody play ball was how well he did it and how little he said and how helpful he would be to the other team members without appearing to bawl them out or anything of that sort. Woody was a very impressive person to me. He was catching at that point. He looked very solid there behind the home plate and always seemed to know exactly what to do and do it so easily without any effort. I went to Wally Vermillion and said, "Who is that guy?" "Oh, that's Woody Stone. Don't you even know him? He's a neat guy." And that's still the way I think of Woody. In the meantime, having become overeducated and gone to school a lot and so on, I would come back and finally got to know Woody fairly well and talked to him a lot and discovered that whatever it was I knew something about, Woody already knew something about and had been there before me and was thoroughly familiar with the subject and could teach me something about it. That's another thing that has always impressed me about him. Possibly he has been someone I have wished I could emulate, a person who knows how to be very strong and at the same time very quiet. Most of the time. Jenny, I remember, as you try to get to know the sisters, you come along in the last of the row, and there are all those ahead, lots of them with children, and you try to get to know their names and so on. Jenny was really pretty easy to remember because she was the tallest and the blondest and the most beautiful. And so I got Jenny's name early on. Jenny has remained the kind of person who's been described so many times today. A person who is always prepared to give or to do something for you with no effort at all. It's so easy. Woody and Jenny do those sorts of things for people so easily and so well and so spontaneously. They make very little noise about it. They're one of my models. Pretty
I haven't checked with Corinne and, okay, we'll get Jan here. The Stones, Corinne and Andrew, do you have something to say? Very good. We'll follow David Wishart.
Oh, okay. My first recollection of Auntie Jenny was, as my mother says, when she came to visit us in Spokane, when my sister was born. She took me for a little walk down to the corner store. And about halfway there, I started saying, Fietsball, which is football, because on the counter at the little store was a big jar of chocolate, foil-covered footballs. My mom, every now and then, very rarely, would buy me maybe 2 or 3 of those little things. Or one. So I got that in my mind, and probably I had seen how generous she was. So I was very anxious. But anyway, when we got to the store, she had the man behind the counter fill up a whole sack of the little things. And I was so disturbed, I didn't know you could get them that way. The stories like that keep happening. Just recently, my brother was complaining about never getting any chocolate chip cookies. The next 3 or 4 days later, 2 dozen chocolate chip cookies in the mail. Just this last week, my father admired some Norman Rockwell mugs that they were using at Grandma's 95th. We came home with 4 of them without knowing it. So, you know, you can't say enough about the generosity. I even wrote a letter to her, to Auntie Jenny, and talked about Jenny and Woody's generosity, that nobody would ever seem to notice how all the things that they were doing for other people. And obviously, several people have noticed, but only little incidences. We could never hope to appreciate the scope of the generosity. So, thank you very much.
I have something really surprising to tell you. And that is, you guys all think you've received all of this from them, from Mom and Dad.
Louder.
I'm going to repeat this. I'm going to cry too soon anyway. You think you have all received a lot in your years of knowing Mom and Dad. We have too. We can't turn around and without getting support from our parents. And no matter how many mistakes we keep making, they're always there to pick us up. We. This was not a mistake. But I have very, very, very good memories of my father, because I should have been his boy, you know. But he has taught me to climb and ski and water ski and fish and enjoy bugs and flowers and sunsets and stars and music and reading and life. And that is beyond being able to put into words the appreciation. And my mother, to have been able to have her as a mother to teach us, or attempt to teach us, how to cook and clean and be a hostess and to give of ourselves to people. It's just,
And just love.
yeah, just lots of love.
During this whole thing, and I may not make it through this either, you know, this is your life, Jenny and Woody, but, you know, this is their life. We're out here in this room. Mom and Dad wouldn't be who they are without each and every one of you, and neither would we.
It's incredible. There's two
I
other...
could go, you know, house by house and come up with memories and just incredible things
that each one of you have contributed to our lives too. And, you know.
That sounds like something your mother would say.
Yeah. We have two other special people up here. Al, Andy and I have to express our feelings for these people. Al has been Uncle Al for years and years and years to us, and always look at the grin, you know, just mischievous and lots of fun. Heroic. And I don't know if all of you know that Marietta is Tracy's other grandma. Tracy, you belong up here. And also my best friend for 5 years, you figured it out. Very, very special person in our family and very supportive to us all. So, we just, yeah. You're part of this too. Anyway.
I wanted to share just a couple little memories. You know, we've heard a lot of about Mom and Dad's hostessing and the special things they've done, you know, that all of you know about. Some of the things that maybe you don't know about because they just happened within the four walls of our home. And they were things that just Daddy and I did or just Mom and I did. And in fact, I just wrote Daddy a letter for Father's Day that talked about a lot of these things.
You can share that.
But one of my lifelong memories is for most of the first probably 10 years of my life, falling asleep every night with my head on my daddy's shoulder while he sat on the floor by my bed and read to me. And I think that's probably a lot of the reason that I love to read. I love literature. I love school. I love learning and growing was because of those years spent falling asleep on my dad's shoulder. And, you know, those kind of memories are just ones that Daddy and I have. But I wanted to bring them out and share. And then there are the first 15 years of my life with a mother who used to let us take anything out in the backyard and build any kind of fort out of what we wanted to build. Her best lace tablecloths went out over freshly mown grass to build forts and tents and things like that. And she'd come out with all of the lemonade and the cookies for the neighborhood kids. And
our house was always the house.
It was the house. And they're pretty special people. And when Auntie Ida called me and said, we're going to do this for your mother, do you think it's okay? I could hardly talk. It's awfully okay. Thank you.
I'm going to ask the whole family here to stay up. It's been a great day for all of us, a great weekend also. We started off singing Family of God, and I truly believe that this family would not be what it is if God's influence had not been on it throughout all these years. And I would like for us to, as many as possible, stand up, form a circle, have Rob come, and let's sing the song, Blessed Be the Tie That Binds, and maybe Palmer would lead out for this, and then maybe if Mac would close us with prayer, short prayer. I think that it's fitting to close a very special day this week.
I want to say one thing, that God gave me the two greatest gifts He's ever given anyone in the world. This family and Woody.
I'd also like to give credit to Mark and his family and Gary and his family, because they're the ones that came up with the idea, and they're the ones that put it together. They notified us down there kind of what they wanted, let us get the information to them, and we just appreciate them so much, and the use of the home here once a year. I pray that this thing can continue on, maybe not always at the Johnson farm here, but throughout all the years to come, even when some of us are long gone, that the younger generations will keep the momentum going in the family tree here. Okay?
May I please also add a bit? I can't add anything to this really, but Andrea said it so beautifully, that it is this wonderful family that means so much and can make such a wonderful experience of all of this and of our lives. You said it that way. And the fact that you're up here now, the last 2 hours are the best water skiing time. That means something.
We take you back for all the good stuff.
Okay, Chuck?
Loving Father in heaven, how thankful we are today for the great hour that we spend here together. We thank you for this rich fellowship. Lord, we pray that you'll just continue to bless it to our hearts and souls. We thank you, Lord, for the great memories we have of fellowshipping with one another. And we think of that scripture verse that tells us about that your God shall be my God and your people shall be my people. Father, we thank you, Lord, that you've so blessed each one of us to be part of this circle. In Jesus' precious name,
I'd like